Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Traumaplicity podcast with your host, Dr. Amanda Hellman. Traumaplicity podcast is all about where we talk about trauma, which is an event or it could be any type of negative experience. And then we also talk about the plicity, which is really simplicity. Our brain needs simplicity to know that we can move forward. And our series 3 of our podcast is focusing on beliefs, the beliefs that happen in our lifetime from positive or negative events shape us and who we are. And so this series is all about beliefs. The first 10 episodes are me talking about 10 of the top 20 beliefs. Be on the lookout. I'll be sharing my beliefs book coming up to really help people know you're not alone in processing your thoughts. But I'm really excited because I have guests that are coming on to share how they have moved through different beliefs in this series. You can catch the Traumaplicity podcast every Wednesday on the Amanda Hellman author and speaker show, or you can find it on any of the Audibles, Spotify, Amazon, all of the different areas, and catch it there. So without further ado, we are going to begin. And I have the joy, oh, look at that, of introducing my guest, Joy Fowler. She is a Baylor University graduate and veteran classroom teacher for more than 36 years. Joy Fowler's love of children and reading has come together wonderfully, helping her pen heartfelt stories. She is a native Texan who loves dogs, drawing with colored pencils, reading, and iced tea. Joy's desire is that her books engage, encourage, and support her readers through the stories she tells. And Joy does have a website that she'll be sharing about later and a book that she wrote about her dog Buddy, or Buddy Boy as she calls him. And so Joy, it is a great honor to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so Joy, today we're going to be talking with our audience and really just hearing about some of your journey on beliefs and perhaps where you have been and where you've moved towards in that process and how it's helped you. Okay. And so the first question is, I've known you, I think, oh my goodness, probably over a year and a half now, almost 2 years.
Yes.
And so just thinking about where were you at a few years ago, perhaps it was even before you got to know me, like where were you with in regards to your beliefs, perhaps even with your journey as an author?
A couple of years ago, well, for a long time, I have had a lot of negative beliefs or beliefs I didn't even realize I was holding on to. And they held me back from doing a lot of things I wanted to do simply because of fear or rejections from the past. And so I wasn't believing that I could move forward. And one of the first things I remember working with you on was to stop hiding. And that's been one of the biggest things that has really helped me on my journey is to realize I tend to be introverted by nature. And so I don't like to be on the stage with everybody looking at me, but that doesn't mean I have to hide in the background. I just have a different job to do in the background, and it's okay to step out. And so that's one of the first things I really remember working on.
That's great. And I love that you're being seen because here you are on a podcast and sharing
Yes.
a story. And so that's great just to see that. And so uh, when we're thinking about just even the coaching or working, what were some of the things that perhaps helped you change? You mentioned some, but rewire your brain or really impacted you saying, oh, I believe this, and now I'm no longer thinking this way.
Well, I think definitely replacing those negative thought patterns with truth. And you can do that with scripture. You can do that with positive quotes and things. But I really have been trying to catch myself when I do have a negative thought saying, wait, stop. This is not truth, or just judging the thoughts that come into our minds because we have so many thoughts that come into our mind. And I even see that with the students I teach. I teach very young students, and they have negative thoughts already. And so I really work with them. Stop. This isn't true. you may feel like you can't do this, but it's just because you don't know how to do it yet. And so really trying to identify thoughts that come in, stop them, take a break, breathe, and say, is this truth? Or is there any truth in this thought? How can it change? What do I need to do with it? And so I think that's one of the biggest things I really work on more now. And then I do try to find scripture to help support that, because God's word is living and powerful and brings us wisdom every day.
Hmm. I love that. And it's stopping those thoughts and actually taking a moment. And it's true, kids really early start to think those patterns, as you mentioned. And so that's even with adults, right? If we've started thinking a certain way when we're younger and we don't know how to take care of it, it can grow, right? Like a big tree in adulthood, and then we have to take care of it. And so that's good, stopping it. And I always say that the changing of the brain, it is like a whirlpool. If you think about when you're going one way and then you're trying to go a different way, you're changing that resistance and your brain, but you need things that'll help you do it quicker, right? Because sometimes we think it's going to be that hard, and sometimes it is if the longer we have it. But there are ways to help that whirlpool go in a different direction, like you're talking about. And so, what are some other ways? Perhaps I know we've done, one individual coaching, but then we've also done some group coaching and talked about different areas with your vision, your thinking, your goals, or even relationships. So, how has that helped you, with the group coaching, or perhaps even with other people when we were going through, like the internal gold coaching? How has that, perhaps, if there's any of them that stood out to you to really help you keep moving forward?
Well, I was just reviewing them. Always, 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 it's important to take notes. And my pastor says a phrase. He says, note takers are history makers. Well, you
Mm.
can't change your history if you don't remember. And so I love to take notes. And so that's a big thing, just writing down what you learn and what's important or what's impactful for you, and then going back and reviewing it. And so I was doing that to prepare for this. And one of the internal gold was safety. And that was a really big thing for me, because I don't think I've always looked at myself as safe. And I don't know why or where that belief came from, but you have to feel like you're safe. I think I always looked for safety in other places. And one of the things is that you had said was, go to yourself first for comfort, not to other things. And I think I
Mm.
have been guilty of doing that, going to other things, trying to find the safety, the wisdom, where I have it within me. I just have to go and spend time. And sometimes it requires being quiet. And sometimes that's hard, just being quiet and listening to your thoughts and thinking and figuring it out. But that in that hard work is where change and truth comes. Makes me think of a butterfly. They have to go into the quiet of that cocoon, and the hard work coming out of that cocoon, it becomes this beautiful butterfly. Well, that's where we're at when we're doing that hard work.
That's really good.
Yeah. And let's
Yeah.
see. I think I was just I've talked about the beliefs, and another thing you said was really recognize your value. I think many of us don't really recognize our true value and what we have to offer. And we look around and we get so guilty of comparing ourselves to other people and what it seems like they have or who it seems like they are, because we live in a world of social media where everybody puts their best face forward, but we don't see what's behind the scenes. And so I think that that's really important, is just valuing yourself and seeing that and offering that first to yourself and then to others.
That's good. Yeah, so I love that you brought up your pastors, note takers or history
Mhm.
makers. I love that because I'm always taking notes. Just fun, to see
Mhm.
how, and that's true. I think all of our different thoughts when we put it down. So I love that. And I love that the internal safety was important because that's such a beginning piece, of any of our beliefs. If we're not feeling safe, or there's some type of belief rooted in us not feeling safe within, it impacts everything. And so it is the root of usually anytime I'm having a belief or a thought, it usually goes back to me feeling safe or secure. So I love that you brought that up. And also even thinking about, as you were going through that series, just really being able to reflect and taking that time for you.
Mhm.
And that brings me to really a part of this is during this journey of the last year and a half, we've done different coaching, you've gotten out of hiding, and you wrote your book.
Mhm.
So let us know about that book and perhaps some of the beliefs you had to overcome from that start to publication to where you are now with that, just so the audience can hear about you and what
Okay.
you've done with that.
Well, my book is a children's book, and it's based on my rescue dog, Buddy. And it's about dealing with grief for children and coming out on the other side. And it's never a book I thought I would write, but I was talking to my best friend one day, and she works with children dealing with grief. And she said, we need more books for young children to talk about grief. And I just felt like God downloaded this book in my heart. And so my dog was very shut down when I got him from the shelter because he'd lost his owner. So he was grieving. I had lost my dog of 15 years. I was grieving. I took him home and he was so shut down. It took a while to earn his trust and teach him that everything was going to be okay again. And so it's based on that story. And I relate it, to children to let them know that it's okay. They're not the only person who's feeling grief. And grief doesn't go away just in one day. And it's okay to have times where you're happy and times where you're still sad. And there's a couple of opportunities in the book that I write a letter to them and tell them some things they can do. And then there's an activity in the back. That's my teacher background. I want them to have something they can do. And for me, that was something else. I was looking at the at the internal gold things we did. And I don't think I've ever really, for myself, I've been through a lot of grief, but I think I have tried to deny it and push it down. And I think how funny God is that an area that I'm still need healing in, He chose me to write a book about, probably because I could recognize it. But one of the things you talked about was when we deny our grief, we deny our joy. And so we have to walk through that and we have to experience it so that we can get to the joy because there is joy in it. And you had shared that unresolved grief holds you hostage. And I feel like I've been stuck in some areas for a while. And I think it's probably because I hadn't dealt with that grief and I haven't fully dealt with it yet, but I'm still working on that. And so I am so excited that God is using me through this book. And I've had a lot of kids read it and not dealing with grief at the time, but very excited about it. They can connect to it because they can connect to pets and their dogs. And I'm just so excited to see how God's going to use it.
Amazing. And I love that work that you've done. Even just getting the beliefs of being seen, starting to share your book, and really bring in your experiences for the kids. And it is a very important book for people to deal with their grief. And just like you shared in the journey, and I always share this, that there are deep roots to grief, or there is a journey. It's an ongoing process to heal, but it's good that you were able to recognize some things. And it is true. The deeper we are able to release grief, the deeper we can find joy. And if our kids, your book is so important because if kids can learn that early or learn that it's okay to have grief, it's okay to be sad, that they can learn that early, right? That shapes them so that as they continue to become an adult, they're in a healthy process of doing that. So thank you for your work. And certainly, Joy, you do have a website, right? We'll be putting on the podcast, and your book about Buddy, and is on there as well. So certainly look for that audience. And so we're coming to the conclusion of our interview, and I appreciate your time. So I just wanted you to think about what you would share with men and women who are listening to the podcast and perhaps needing more. So it might be that they might need coaching, right, individual or group, to help them use their voice. And so what would you share with them to encourage them moving forward? Perhaps it's coaching with me, perhaps it's any type of encouragement you have for them, those who are hiding.
I would say it's very important to have someone walking along your journey with you because we can't see what we can't see. And other people who are not right there with us have a great perspective. They're from the outside looking in, and they can speak into our lives and encourage us and point us in directions that we may not have ever considered or we might not have ever seen. And I think that's one of the biggest values of coaching, counseling, whatever journey you take, having someone walking alongside you, helping you see things that you've overlooked or encouraging you and saying, okay, you've made it this far. Let's keep going on this journey. And so that would be my encouragement is find a time to work with a coach. Dr. Amanda's been great. She's helped me so much. And I know that she has such a heart for helping other people. And I've seen her in the big coaching groups and in one-on-one, really speak some great things of truth into people. And so she's definitely someone I would encourage you to check out. But whoever you check out, wherever you go, find someone who can walk your journey with you and help you. That's my biggest thing I would suggest.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, and it's important to find somebody, and it has to be a good fit. When you're coaching, you want to be a good fit for them, and they want to be a good fit for you. And that's why, I always say, not everybody's going to be for me, right? And not everybody's I'm not going to be for everybody, but find, like Joy said, find people that you feel safe with, you feel heard. I mean, there's four things that I say that are important for me as a value, and that differs for different people, but it's that people feel loved, feel safe, feel seen and heard. And those are the big non-negotiables for me. And so for you, you might have different values, but make sure you find somebody that you can feel safe enough to share your heart and see those blind spots, as Joy had mentioned. And so thank you again, Joy, for being here. And audience, if you have questions or comments for Joy, if you have more questions about her book, please make sure that you write them in the comments so that we can get that to her. Joy, I know that your website, and we'll have this above, it's joyfowler.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you also have, is it okay if they contact you by email? Is that all right as well? Do you
Yes,
have a,
there's an email on my website too.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can
So
find what they need right there.
okay, perfect. All right. Well, with that, everybody who's watching, thanks for tuning in to the Traumaplicity podcast. I hope you know every week that you are loved, you are valued, you are cherished, and you're worthy. And for you to move forward in that and break every belief that holds you back. All right. Take care and catch you next week. Bye, everybody.